Anybody that ever tells you that we're in a situation of combat of any kind of sorts, whether you were on the periphery of it or in the midst of it, anybody tells you that they weren't scared, they're prevaricating the truth, or shall we say lying.
When I was shot, I happened to be medevaced and taken to the hospital, along with a number of folks from the 101st Airborne who were involved in an operation known as Hamburger Hill. It was a slaughter. It was not in my area of operation, it was up north. I was down south in the Delta. It was a whole different experience. But I got to talking to some of those guys, and even though what we did was different, the emotional impact was the same. The fear was the same. The terror was the same.
I feel that part of me already died over there. And I guess that's the worst part. But you live on, you keep on, and just try to do the best you can for your family and for your neighbors and for the community that you live in.
You learn to survive, you learn to stay ahead of the game, and like I said, you can't let them get you. Just like the enemy, you can't let it get you. You gotta fight those demons till the day we die, and we'll never forget about that. There's no way we can forget about that. If somebody has a way of forgetting about that, let me know, because I do want peace somewhere along the line. Look, what I'm here for is to get some kind of recognition for the Brighton hometown veterans. 2 years ago, 2014, my brother Dammy, he passed away too. And he was a wounded vet. Finally caught up to him. And he went to school here, he went to church here, and no recognition for the Vietnam vet. And it's already been 50 years. This is the 50-year commendation. I really feel that Brighton should step up and honor their Vietnam veterans.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial was started by a group of veterans that came to the City Council in 2016 asking for some kind of a memorial. Staff was assigned to meet with the veterans, and we called a meeting of about 15 veterans that got together to start talking about how to design the memorial and what it should look like. And we hired a firm to come in and help us do some concepts, which we showed to the vets. They liked the concepts, which represent what we have here today. And so that was finished in 2016. There were no funds available because it was after the budget session in 17, so we had to wait till 2018 for the funds to be available. So in December of 2017, we started the design process and put the RFP out to bid to complete the memorial. During that time frame, we had staff members who were collecting names of Vietnam veterans that needed to be on the memorial. We got the list of the ones that were killed in action, so we had that complete list. And so we had a good list of the people that were there. Then in January of 2018, we completed the bid process. It was about $110,000 is what the city put into it. Actually, at the end of the day, it got to $117,000. That's what the project cost. The council did approve the additional money, and we started the construction process in February of 2018.
I became involved in the Veterans Memorial Project early on when I was interviewing Elias Huerta for a story about him. And he was a city councilman and on very many boards and commissions in Brighton, always serving the public. And at the end of the interview, we talked for another 20 or 30 minutes about the fact that he, as a Vietnam veteran, was concerned because his fellow veterans were not recognized for their service and especially in the conditions they were dealing with in Vietnam. And he mentioned maybe we do a memorial in Brighton. 6 months later, Jose Gonzalez and a bunch of other Vietnam veterans came to City Council and talked about needing a memorial, and Brighton was a good place because so many people served from Brighton in Vietnam, and many of them didn't come home. The veterans who were in that group, 20 to 30 of them, for a long time, were involved with every bit of the planning process of this memorial that was dedicated today in 2018. This is just a wonderful testament to the people of Brighton and to the veterans who served so gallantly and valiantly for those years 50 years ago.
Well, it all started back in 1970 when I found out that a real good friend of mine from my hometown was killed in action. And his name is John Anthony Martinez, and we knew him by the name of Tony. We grew up with him and went to school with him, and we played here in Brighton with him. And he has always been on my mind since 1970. I have did research on him and found out where he was KIA in Vietnam. And that really drove me to, and this all came about, I finally got the nerve in 2012 to speak up about anything about Vietnam. And that's when I was diagnosed with cancer due to the Agent Orange that we were exposed to in Vietnam. And all that just started to build up, and I just, first chance I got, I noticed that we were coming forward and they were appreciating us more as Vietnam veterans, not like back in 69 and 70 when we weren't appreciated and weren't respected as veterans. We were turned away and ignored by our country. And it had just been eating away with me, eating at me constantly. How could I get some recognition so Tony would not be forgotten? And I went to the counties, I went to the VA Veterans Affairs, and I asked them what I could do. And first thing they said was to get with an organization and see, because there was nothing they could do, because it was just like a thought in my mind. And I joined, I've met a fine group of men, Vietnam veterans, and they belong to we're lifetime members of Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 1071 in Denver. And I told them what I was supposed to, what I needed to do to get this something kind of recognition in the town of Brighton. And they told me that they would back me and everything. So after I went to the counties and that, I said, my beef is with the city of Brighton. That's where I grew up, that's where I lived, and that's where I was drafted at. And that's where my Vietnam adventure began. And I finally had the nerve to go and state my 5 minutes at the city council meeting and told them what was going on, why there was no recognition. And I knew that we had a lot of Vietnam veterans here in the town of Brighton. Some of my friends, there's quite a bit of us. And it turned out that there's quite a bit that were even killed in action from just the surrounding area. And I just presented it with them, and I tell you, as soon as Elias was there, he was there that night, And I guess I hit a nerve with them or something, because without hesitation, they stepped right to the plate and says, we're going to get this done, and it's here.
I'm very proud of Brighton. I served on the city council from '96 to 2006. And during that time, I had it in my mind that perhaps I wanted to do something, not particularly for me, but to honor those that didn't make it back. One of them is my neighbor across the street. She lost her son. And then Mr. Martinez, I knew Mauro when we used to work in the fields. He died over there. And so I wanted to do something to make sure that their sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten. And so I kept it in my mind, and my councilman now, Mark Humbert, I talked to him, and I told him, I said, I want to present something to the city council, maybe name a street, a park, or something in honor of these guys. Well, he had written a draft of this letter that I wanted to present to council, which I now and then knew just about everyone on the city council. Some faces had changed, but not that many. Anyway, he had this draft already completed when my friend Jose and some of his friends approached the city council, and I made an effort to talk to Jose, and I said, yeah, Jose, this is something we need to do. And from there on, it went, and I just felt like I was just a good addition to what Jose had in mind, and then some.
Service in general is an important thing. I've been, actually, my life has been service ever since I went into the Army. I've been involved in the community here in Brighton for 40 years. And I didn't feel like my service in Vietnam, which was traumatic, as it was for most folks, was appreciated at all. So when I heard that Brighton was considering a memorial, it warmed my heart. It made me feel like the community was recognizing those of us who had served in what really now is in large part a forgotten war. And I truly appreciate the efforts of the City Council and the folks who pushed this memorial. It means a lot to be remembered for something that happened 50 years ago.
William Jr. Lloyd, Winslow Jerry G., Shimoda Wesley, Bosser Johnny Steve, Gomez Margarito Rodriguez, Sandoval Jose Ramon, Price Larry Jr., Martinez Mauro. I should have said stayed hidden. I just stayed out of the way for all this time, and it was about 5 years ago that I wanted some hearing aids that I couldn't afford. So I went to the VA, and they said, well, yeah, we need to, give you some kind of a rating so we could see what you're entitled to. So they wanted to recreate all this history, and they ended up sending me to this therapist and talked to him and got all this stuff out in the open. And I asked this guy, I said, you really want me to remember what I'm trying to forget? And this is after 40-something years. So anyway, everything that this guy was talking about, I had already gone through, with my marriage and things like that, and my behavior in the workplace, and my parenting skills had a lot to do with experience or maybe trauma that you suffer when you're in combat environment.
kind of tough on the death and injury that happens to people. Whew, sorry. It's like it happened yesterday. Anyway, that was pretty much the PTSD adventures for me in that respect. But it was a lot of arduous work trying to get the project completed. Plus we had the monsoons to deal with, and mud wading in between your ankles and your knees, and rats, snakes. It was just an inhospitable place to try to do anything, let alone do war. So the military set me off on give me my platform to do what I initially was trained to do, and then retired from in civilian life at the age of 65. I'm afflicted with ischemic heart disease from the exposure to Agent Orange, and last August I just got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is also a presumptive of Agent Orange exposure. So we drank a lot of it, showered in it. It was something that we were ignorant of the fact of what was really going to affect us later on in life. It takes about 10 to 15 years off your expected lifespan, depending on what your genetic predisposal is and how strong your immune system is. So, but I'm just thankful to still be alive and be able to participate in this adventure.
I was awarded some disability and things like that, and this is after just recently, maybe the last 4 or 5 years, that the VA decided that, you know, you're disabled. And yes, my knee got jacked up and my hearing and things like that.
When I got back in 1969, I didn't experience immediately the kind of derision that I saw on television, but I did see it, mostly in the media. I came back and went right into a college environment, into a university environment. And there were a number of Vietnam vets there. We felt isolated, we felt not really ostracized, but we were different. And we were shown to be different by a number of the organizations on campus.
I guess in so many ways we were blamed for what happened over there. And maybe we have to accept some of the blame, but we just did what we were told to do. And when you're given orders, you follow those orders.
You know, this was something that came to council a few years ago, and there's just no way you can turn an eye to something like this. This is something that should have happened years and years and years ago. And so it's with pride that as mayor I got to proceed over this. But what's really, really cool is I read the list of names. I just have lots of friends that are on there, and my cousins, and it's just really special. It just proves what a special place Brighton is, what a special tribute these people did to our country and to our community. This is just what it's all about.
It's way overdue. I hope by doing this, I know it helps me face a lot of my demons from Vietnam that you have to deal with every day, and you just can't let them get you. I didn't let them get me in Vietnam, and I ain't gonna let them get me here. I know just by us having a name on something, we know that memorial's gonna be there, and it's gonna remind everybody about us Vietnam veterans, how we sacrificed, and we're still here. There's not very many of us left, but I look at it this way. I don't want to die not knowing that I want everybody to remember me as a Vietnam veteran, that I served my country and I stand proud for it. I guess I hope this makes sense to everybody, because it makes sense to me.
Plus I live here within the community And I've been involved with other memorials, so it was kind of a natural fit. So that's how I got involved with it, and I think it's very honorable that the city fathers have seen fit in all of their minutia that they have to go through to get this done. I know the first meeting I was to, at the end of it, after they were deciding what they were going to do and they didn't have the money in the budget that year, the mayor's final comment was, looked out there at Moner and he says, so what took you guys so long?
To me, this memorial has become not only long overdue, and people that know me, I think, have heard me say many times that my main focus was to honor those that are not here, didn't have the luxury of coming back to their family and getting married and have kids and things like that. So have I felt like our sacrifice has been ignored? I guess in so many ways, yes, it has. But, you know, you cannot dwell on the mistakes that your country made and the people that lived in that era. I guess just not knowing much about anything, being just a simple farm boy, it was a change, and it has affected my life and the life of my family. And as far as I'm concerned, this memorial will hopefully serve to remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice, and some of us that came back.
And when we look at the memorial in Washington, D.C., which I go to sometimes to see, I think the last count when I was there, it was 58,272 names on that memorial. And we forget as a country that in 67, 68, 69, we were averaging 1,000 killed in action a month in the war in Vietnam. Stunning losses. And so it is so refreshing to be here in the city of Brighton, to honor those who have made such incredible sacrifices, and to this memorial, the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. That across America, there are celebrations going on like this. And as a country, we must never again treat those like we treated those brave soldiers, airmen, sailors and Marines who came home from Vietnam. We must never, ever, ever as a nation treat them like that again.
Many guys never came home. Not only those who were killed in action, but those who mentally were just never the same and still remain. I feel for those guys. And I think recognition from the community, from a memorial like this, helps to heal, no matter how long ago it was. And I applaud the city for getting involved in this worthwhile project. Looking forward to seeing it.
And I appreciate the efforts and the expenditure of funds by the city of Brighton, not only the city council and the fathers thereof, but also the residents, the taxpayers that are doing this, because it's on their backs, and it's really appreciated that they're giving those of us that are left the recognition that has been a little short in coming, but I guess we went and spent our time and did our duty, and really came back and didn't really expect a lot of accolades or attaboys or attagirls, whatever. The ones that really are saints in the whole thing are the nurses that dealt in nothing but death, dying, blood, and guts the whole time. So those are the people that are really affected by the traumas and the undesirables of warfare. So Anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity to express myself, and I guess that'll be the end of it.
And it's outstanding to know that your hometown is going to step up and recognize you for something that you did that wasn't appreciated years ago. So I look at it as a big plus. I hope it helps other Vietnam veterans. I hope it makes them stand tall and to come forward and to say that they are proud Vietnam veterans, just like me, proud Vietnam veteran.
You've lived this for more than 50 years and your lives never the same. You should have been lauded for serving your country with bravery, and while that might not have been the case when you came home 50 years ago, we have the opportunity today to recognize who you are to America, who you are to Brighton. You are our heroes. And while this memorial can't erase the past, it's our commitment that Brighton honors and recognizes you for serving our country with pride and patriotism. We thank you for putting your lives at risk and protecting our country so the generations to follow can be afforded the freedoms that we have today. We thank you for your courage and your sacrifice. When your future generations ask about this memorial, may it serve to tell the story of the Vietnam War and all of you that gave to our great country.
Today was a dedication here in Brighton. Let me tell you, it was fantastic. Just by this ceremony alone has relieved a lot of heartache on my part because it makes me feel good. And City of Brighton came forward and they did an awesome job. You can see it right here, and it's awesome. And I thank the City of Brighton for doing this. Without them, this would have never came about. So, but yes, I feel it's almost like getting a weight off my back. And yes, it is a healing process too. It just takes time.